Hi everybody, I'm Dee Dee West, and this is Broken Limelight. I just wanted to give you a quick little mini episode before I go and get busy again. I'll try to keep up with my schedule, but who knows. So here's a shorter episode for you guys. I've been meaning to look into Pee Wee Herman because there's a lot of controversy about whether what he did was really that bad. It turns out I only knew about half of what he had done, so I'm going to break it all down for you. Before we get started, I want to make a couple of announcements. First of all, I owe another shout out to Ellen, because I butchered her name and I'm absolutely embarrassed about it. But I'm an imperfect human, so here I am fixing myself. Big, huge shout out to Ellen Temple Fagan. She interacts with us a lot on social media, and we just appreciate you so much, Ellen. This weekend, on Saturday, June 25th, I'm going to be performing in a concert here in Las Vegas, and we're also going to be live streaming it. So if you're interested in watching that show, you can go to ddwest.simpletix.com, and you can watch it in real time from the comfort of your home. And by the way, I know I fuck around a lot, but I'm really not as bad of a singer as I pretend to be a lot of times. I actually had a buddy of mine who I was performing with once ask me, like, why do you sing so badly when we're not on stage, and then you sing so well when we are? It's just fun for me. I do a lot of singing for work, and sometimes I just like to sing for play. But believe me, I don't just charge people to come see me sing badly either. With that being said, I will also be giving away an entry to that ticket to either the virtual concert or the in-person concert. It's up to you, depending on where you are or what you want to do, I guess. I mean, yeah, fuck it. Come to Vegas if you want to. And the winner will also receive a Broken Limelight t-shirt of their choice. For more details about that giveaway, you can just head over to brokenlimelight.com/giveaway, and all the information is there. There's also a post about it on Facebook and Instagram. Alright, so let's get started. Pee Wee Herman, also known as Paul Reubens, was born in 1952 in New York, but grew up in Sarasota, Florida. He was interested in entertainment and performing from an early age. He frequented the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circuses with his family, and he just loved the show I Love Lucy and making people laugh. When he was 5 years old, he asked his father to build him a stage so that him and his friends could perform on it. In high school, he was the president of his school's thespian society, and he started acting in local regional theater productions. He auditioned for the Juilliard School of Performing Arts, but was not accepted. He was accepted, however, into the California Institute of Arts, or CalArts, north of Los Angeles. In the 70s, Paul joined the Groundlings, which was an improvisational comedy team based north of Los Angeles. He remained a member for 6 years and became close friends with people like Phil Hartman. The character of Pee Wee Herman was created in 1978. The idea began as a man who wanted to be a comedian but was just absolutely terrible at telling jokes. The name Pee Wee came from the brand of his harmonica, and Herman was the name of an energetic boy he knew from his childhood. In 1980, Paul auditioned for Saturday Night Live, but lost to Gilbert Gottfried. That is understandable. Can you imagine both of them on the show at the same time? I feel like that would have been so nasally and loud. Just one guy screaming his head off and the other one going, I know you are, but what am I? So Paul was disappointed for not making the show, and he decided to start his own show. The Pee Wee Herman Show made its debut as a stage show on the Groundlings Theater in 1981, and eventually it made its way to the Roxy Theater in West Hollywood, where it was filmed and aired by HBO, and the show sold out for 5 straight months. He would do a matinee show that was kid-friendly, and then a late-night show that was for adults and had more risque jokes. Before long, the Pee Wee Herman character was making guest appearances all over the place. He was in the Cheech and Chong movie Up in Smoke, and no, he was not in that movie. He was in Cheech and Chong's next movie, actually. He played like a bellboy or a receptionist at a hotel or something like that. And he was also in the Blues Brothers playing a waiter. Also, I'm going to digress a little bit because this wasn't Pee-wee, but Paul Reubens actually was in the movie Matilda. You remember the 2 cops that were staking out their house? Yeah, one of them is Paul Reubens. I just never recognize him if he's not Pee-wee. Which apparently is exactly what he wanted. He appeared on Late Night with Letterman as Pee Wee Herman, and after that, his character just, blew up. So, from then on, he only wanted to show up on films as Pee Wee Herman playing Pee Wee Herman. And he insisted that he showed his names in the credit as Pee Wee Herman playing himself. He would even nickname his parents Honey Herman and Herman Herman. In 1985, Pee Wee's Big Adventure was made on a $7 million budget. It was a huge success. It made $40 million and got great reviews. The following year, Pee Wee's Playhouse made its debut on CBS and ran for 5 seasons until Paul got burnt out from playing the character and opted to not renew for the 6th season and decided to take a sabbatical. He laid low for a while, but just 8 months after the series ended, Paul Reubens would make headlines. On July 26, 1991, Paul was visiting his parents in Sarasota when he was arrested for indecent exposure when he was caught masturbating in an adult theater. I want to read a little bit of this article from the LA Times from 1991. Some of it is pretty funny. Pee Wee Herman, aka Paul Reubens, was arrested by 3 cops in Sarasota, Florida for touching himself in a darkened adult movie theater. He was charged with indecent exposure. Me? I don't get it. The guy was practicing safe sex. We should put him on an AIDS poster and offer him a public service spot. Instead, CBS canceled summer reruns of the Emmy-winning Pee Wee's Playhouse, and Disney MGM Studios stopped showing a tape starring Pee Wee at its theme park in Florida. According to the police, Paul Reubens offered to perform a children's benefit if they didn't arrest him, but it didn't work on them. He needed to come up with $219 for bail, and he came up $22 short. So a sheriff's deputy who had known him for years gave him the money, and she immediately was hit with a 1-day suspension from work. When the news of his arrest got out, parents were absolutely outraged. And that LA Times article makes a really interesting point about that. Like I said, Paul would do a kid's version of the show and an adult version of the show. And in the adult version, Pee Wee was kind of a pervert. So the article says, he portrayed the kind of guy who would touch himself in a darkened movie theater. More than most movie stars, Paul Reubens portrayed exactly what he was. In an interview, Paul was asked, "What were you thinking?" And he replied, "Well, obviously I wasn't thinking, you know? I certainly wasn't thinking to myself, you're a children's show host. Your show is still on television. I wasn't making those lists. I felt like they were insinuating I was sitting in a darkened movie theater in my Pee Wee suit." Let me give you a little overview of Paul's legal troubles up until this point. He was arrested when he was 18 in 1971 for possession of marijuana, and he was placed on a 2-year probation. And in 1983, he was arrested for loitering and prowling at either an adult bookstore or another adult theater. But the charges ended up being dropped. So now for this indecent exposure charge that he's facing in 1991, he was facing a misdemeanor and he entered a plea of not guilty. Unfortunately, the damage to his reputation had been done. Paul's arrest was widely covered, and both the character Pee Wee and Reubens became the subject of ridicule. And like I said, everybody stopped airing Pee Wee videos. Except Disney. Disney's Star Tours featured voice work from Paul Reubens, and they left it unaltered. Which, Disney just doesn't give a fuck, right? I mean, they hired Brian Peck and fucking Victor Salva after they became convicted sex offenders. And, with no shame, they just don't even address it. So I guess that's a plus for Paul Reubens. Despite the negative publicity, a lot of artists who knew Paul Reubens, like Cyndi Lauper, Annette Funicello, and Zsa Zsa Gabor, all spoke out in his support. Bill Cosby defended Paul Reubens, saying, "Whatever Reubens has done, this is all being blown out of proportion." Which is kind of funny now. I guess that didn't age well knowing Bill Cosby today. The general public also appeared to sympathize with Reubens. The TV news magazine A Current Affair received tens of thousands of responses to a Pee Wee telephone survey, with callers supporting Paul Reubens with a 9-1 majority. He was said to have remained in a state of shock for weeks and was supposedly haunted by the arrest for several years and refused to give interviews or appear on talk shows after that. By the late 90s, Paul Reubens started to get out there a little bit more, and he was making more appearances, and things started to look up for him, until 2002, when he was arrested again. The police had received a tip that Paul Reubens had inappropriate photos of children, so they raided his home while he was filming on the set of Elton John's video for This Train Don't Stop There Anymore. The police had actually begun an investigation a year ago with accusations from a 17-year-old boy. On November 16, 2001, they searched Paul Reubens' home in Hollywood Hills, and they seized personal computers and boxes of material that were described as vintage erotica. Acting on evidence that they found at his home, they then searched the home of Jeffrey Jones. Jeffrey Jones is the actor best known for playing the principal on Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he was also the father in Beetlejuice. And at his home, supposedly they also found numerous items of evidence. Police told CNN that they had been working on this investigation for months, but they finally made the arrest because they had to stay within the 1-year statute of limitations, which would have expired Saturday. And from what I read, November 16th was a Friday, meaning it was literally the last day before the statute of limitations ran out. Jeffrey Jones was charged with enticing that same boy to pose for sexually explicit photos and possessing child pornography. From what I gather, all there are photos of the boy posing. There is no allegations of any actual touching or improper acts with the minor, no video, anything like that. Not that it makes it any better, but Paul Reubens was claiming that this was like vintage erotica art. His attorney issued a statement saying, Mr. Reubens has never at any time knowingly possessed any artwork from his extensive vintage and antique art collection, even remotely related to anything improper. Which, I don't know, man. I feel like that's weird when there's a boy who is a minor saying, hey, these guys took pictures of me. You have to know that's not okay. He pled guilty to possession of obscene materials with the intent to distribute, and he acknowledged possessing 170 images of minors engaged in sexual conduct. So Paul Reubens and Pee Wee Herman have, had a lot of up and downs with their career, but he's always been able to pop back up. In fact, he just did another movie in 2016 with Netflix called Pee Wee's Big Holiday. Today, he's worth about $5 million. Alright, so that's it for today. I want to thank everybody so much for your support once again. I've had a lot of new listeners this past week, and it's really exciting for me. I gotta say, it's really thanks to you guys who have been sharing my podcast, so thank you, I love you, appreciate you so much. Also, I want to apologize because Apple Podcasts has been having some glitch with my podcast lately, and I'm not sure if it's been happening on other platforms, but from what I can tell, Spotify seems to be working just fine. I'm told that this will be resolved in less than a week, so fingers crossed. Don't forget, you can always check out BrokenLimelight.com if you want more interesting... What? If you want to look at pictures and videos about this case. You can also find a transcript there and a section to leave a comment. And while you're there, take a look at our merch. And also the giveaway page. Don't forget that I'm going to give away a t-shirt for Broken Limelight. You can pick which t-shirt you want, and also an entry to my concert this weekend. Find me under all the social medias if you want to reach out to me. I'm either under DD West or Broken Limelight, or you can also email me at ddwest@brokenlimelight.com. Okay, thanks again. Bye!